I I've had many business ventures over the last decade, and I often wondered when I was doing those business ventures if this was something that I was called to do. Was I doing it just because I had a passion for it? Is there a difference between having working in or having a business that you are passionate about and one that you're called to do? But I, often question myself when I had these ventures, and I know Nicole S. Cooper, honey, she gives us a word. She's the guru. She actually coached me on one of my previous business venture, and it wasn't long, but just the impact that she provided me, I still use some of those coaching session, the information that she talked to me about till this day to help me with businesses that I start. So without further ado, let's welcome Miss Nicole S. Cooper to talk everything faith and entrepreneurship. Y'all give us a wave and thumbs up, show us some love. Woo! Thank you so much, Nicole. Yes.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm super excited to be here, and I am grateful to be able to talk about this topic. Like, this is a hot button for me right now.
Yes.
As I am personally in my business leaning all the way into my faith while being able to talk about finances, talking about the Bible while talking about business, talking about the Holy Spirit and salvation while talking about success. So I'm in a season of my life where this is a very, very big and important conversation for me. So I'm excited to be here and talk about it.
So I have a few questions that I'm going to ask you, but before I dive into those questions, introduce yourself to the people who don't know you, who don't follow you. Introduce yourself to them.
Hey, everybody. My name is Nicole Cooper. I am based out of the Austin area. And I'm a business coach and consultant. So I work with coaches, consultants, and those who are wanting to get into the high level in the service-based business industry. I pretty much teach people how to launch, grow, and scale their businesses leveraging the internet.
Great. Great. All right. So let's dive in then. You guys still have time to bring people in. We want to have as many people as possible. Of course, you'll be able to watch the replay. It's going to be here. And then it's also going to be over on our YouTube channel. And hopefully Nicole will be able to share it on her on her YouTube channels and her platforms as well, because she's a beast. She's the guru. She's the girl. I've been following Nicole for years, and I hang on to her every word like, yes. So Nicole, let me ask you this. So when choosing a business to start outside of the normal process of research, what would you recommend in terms of when it comes to a business that you are called to do? So outside of doing your normal research, what else would you recommend that businesses do?
I always tell people it's all about your gifts, your skills, your talents, your experience, and your background, right? I feel like everything that we've done is a smorgasbord of our purpose. I feel like people are often like trying to segment their vocation from their calling, right? It's like what I do for my day job versus who I really am. And God designed you to operate in that thing that you're gifted and talented to do. So what I usually tell people to do, and a lot of times it takes time for people to do an assessment, because what I discovered is the thing that you're called to do is a thing that is so easy to do that you don't even realize you're good at it.
Yeah,
that makes sense. I tell people all the time, it's funny, you can look back on your childhood and kind of identify where your gifts are. You may not call it a gift, because mine in my childhood got me in trouble. So it was me right? But it's funny because those things that you used to get in trouble for, that you were compulsive about as a kid, often show up in your adulthood as the very thing that you love to do. So if you were really good with your hands, you love breaking things down. Like, you might have gotten in trouble because you broke the computer apart, and you took it apart and you wanted to see how it all works, maybe become an engineer, right?
Right.
If you were the kid that had the Barbie dolls and you wanted to cut their hair or do different styles, you might get into the beauty and the styling industry. Like, I feel like God innately already equips us for who we are. The challenge we deal with is the fact that we live in a world where everybody tries to tell us who we're supposed to be. So we begin to walk away and abandon those things, and it ends up creating this level of confusion where you take on all this stuff that's not really you until you realize, like, I hate all this stuff. I'm going back to who I am and what I love. So it goes down to identifying what is it that people talk about, the purpose and the passion thing. I don't think you need to be broke pursuing your purpose. I think that you have to look at your passions and identify what about those things can actually become a business model. And then from there, you can identify what your next steps need to be.
So you mentioned passion, and I was just going to ask you about that. So is there a difference? Are they mutually exclusive, a business that you may be passionate about in a business that you are called to do? Is there a difference, or are they one of the same?
A business that you're passionate about? I would want to personally believe that you can be passionate about what you do.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that a lot of us don't get the freedom to do that.
Yes.
I think about me. I've been an entrepreneur my entire life. I did not know what that looked like in real life. I just had a bunch of images from the Cosby Show, different world, what success looked like for Black people, right?
Right.
But the obvious next step in the world that we grew up in was go to college. But
Right.
at the college, I couldn't find a major. I was like, none of this feels good to me. I got into accounting. I thought I wanted to be an attorney. I got into political science. I got into English. Friends were telling me about doing social work. It was like all this stuff that sounded good, but I was like, this is not me.
Right.
So I remember being forced to select a major, and I was like, well, tell me how you can make the most money. Which one make the most money? And I chose it, and I did an internship, and I had got an IT degree. And I just knew in my soul that this is not me. Like I was like, I cannot do this for my lifetime. So I did this internship. It was Bell South at the time, later became AT&T in Atlanta. And I was in this tall, 45-story building, looking out the window in the middle of the day during my internship. And I was like, where are all these people going in the middle of the day? They're not in the building locked up in a cubicle. So I don't want that. I want something different. I just didn't know what it was. The difference for me than I feel that most people is I was willing to take the risk to So if it meant walking away from a $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year job and becoming a waitress, while I had my free schedule to figure out if I wanted to go and get into real estate or if I wanted, I just was like, I'm going to search and find whatever I'm supposed to be doing. And I just think a lot of times people don't get that space in their lives and in their journeys to figure that out. So they end up kind of conforming to what school said you got to pick a major. So if you got the degree in psychology, you need to become a psychologist, right? And then your parents say, well, you spent all this money on your education, so you got to get you a good job. My parents, immigrants, they were like, you are the American dream for us. We're in America. You're the first born. We put you in college. We didn't get to go to college. We trust your decision making. And even though it was psychotic and crazy, because I became a 3 years at Red Lobster, absolutely loved it. Started waiting for college, and I was like, this is cool. I can hustle, make my little money, but I got my freedom in my scheduling to figure out how to navigate. But my parents was just supportive, as crazy as I was. So your passion should be, you should be passionate about what you do. I feel like God has equipped us with that passion as an indication that that's what we were wired to do.
Okay. So, and that's what I was trying to get to. So we can be passionate about a business, and that feeling is that thing that signals us that, okay, this is what I'm called to do.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Y'all got that? Do y'all understand that? Raise your hand, send some hearts, comment if y'all understand that.
Said I didn't.
Hey, Lou. Yes. Because as I was thinking about the questions I wanted to ask you, that was one of the things that popped up in my head. And I was like, okay, can something I be passionate about also be something that I'm called to do? Or is that two separate things? So yeah. Makes sense. All right, so let's move on. And I guess we pretty much answered what I'm about to ask, which is, how do you know if you're doing what you're called to do as an entrepreneur? So if you want to elaborate a little more.
The reality is, You know, we all have that indication. We all have that God has gifted us with that internal intuition to know when something is a fit or not. The issue that we deal with in our world is our circumstances dictate our decisions. So if
Mm-hmm.
we have bills to pay, we suffer in the name of being able to pay that bill by staying in a place that we hate and we don't want.
Yeah.
And once again, that boils down to what decisions you're willing to make to reposition yourself to operating your gifting and your calling. Because a lot of times, even if you and I know it's like it's not. Let me just shift gears real quick and say this. This is why I think God and business is so important, right? This is why, to me, you cannot remove God out of your life selectively, because the
Mm-hmm.
word tells us, I think it's in Psalms 119, 105, that I carefully crafted you before you were in your mother's womb. I knew you and I carefully crafted you, right? And he talks about in Romans 8 and 31 that those he foreknow, he predestined, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything about us was pre-planned.
Yes.
We were,
I
how
believe that.
we wired, how we were going to show up in the world, what our gifts and talents were, what our
Yes.
contributions to the earth was. Like, God
Mm-hmm.
knows that there needs to be people as educators and people who do
Mm-hmm.
hair and people who run
Right.
gas stations and people who, it's nothing wrong with any of those roles. The challenge that we face is that we disassociate ourselves from who God created us to be, and then we start letting
Mm-hmm.
the world tell us what that's supposed to look like, right?
Right.
Jump into all these different things to begin to navigate the way that the world emulates or claims that we're supposed to be. And I tell people, I said, it's like you were born with a purpose and
Yes.
in a true destiny, right? God destined for greatness, but you spend the rest of your life trying to convince yourself that you are because of the influences in your life, right?
Right.
So when it comes down to the ability to know, it's a matter of how much you've desensitized yourself from the voice of God. If I
Mm-hmm.
stop listening, or I'm not connected to God, I don't have a prayer life, I don't have a relationship with God, and I let
Mm-hmm.
all these influences tell me what I'm supposed to be doing, oh baby, I'm gonna be
Right.
depressed. I'm gonna be
Mm-hmm.
living a life that don't belong to me. I'm gonna
Right.
have a whole lot of debt to fit into an image of a thing. I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
be doing everything possible to replicate what they say looks good. And so,
Right.
yeah, so it's like, do you know? Yeah, my daughter knows. My daughter's 14.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter said
Right.
to me, Mom, school is designed to set you up to be in a cubicle. I don't want to do this.
I know that's right.
I'm
Yeah. And
like,
it's good. So before let me ask this. Someone asked the question, how important, thank you, Lou, for your question. How important is it to have supportive parents?
it it is great if you do, but your life doesn't stop if you don't.
Yes.
That's not
Yes.
everybody's circumstances, right? Some
Mm-hmm.
parents are limited in their ability to support you.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't allow that to dictate if what you're doing is effective or valuable or not. So
Yes.
having supportive parents is great, but not always guaranteed.
Absolutely. And I often tell people that I work with, um, businesses that I work with, you can't build a business around family and friends. You just can't. I had to learn that the hard way when I first started. I'm like, I got all these friends and these family, and they're gonna buy from me. And when they didn't, I was so absolutely heartbroken. And it was a lesson that I had to learn. And I often tell that to people because they thinking, oh, because you're my family or you're my friend, that you should be supporting me. But listen, most times they don't. And so you have to just, if this is something that you are called to do, which is what we're talking about, or you're passionate about, you just have to, keep going, just keep going, and knowing that, and even if it doesn't work out, so what? At least you tried. You know what I mean? At least you tried. At least you had faith that, okay, this is something that I'm passionate about. This is something I'm do, regardless if I have the support of family and friends. I'm going to soldier on and do this. So Nicole, do you think it's a good idea to speak faith and religion while promoting your business? Oh, she froze. Ah, she froze, guys. Hey, let me tell her. You froze. Yeah, it's spinning. So I'm not sure if that's me or you, Nicole. Okay, send me another request. Let me see. Hey Nick, send me another request. I don't see you on here. I'm trying to add you. Uh, okay, guys, hang on. She left and she's coming back. So just hold on. Hold on. Here we go. Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I'm sorry. Something came in, kept coming in. I was trying to close these calls coming in. I pressed.
Oh,
So thank y'all for sitting through. Bear with us.
yes. Thank you
All this.
guys so much. We
Hey,
appreciate it. So Nicole, do you think it's a good idea? So my next question was, do you think it's a good idea to speak of faith and religion while promoting your business, especially on social media in the times that we're in now?
I mean, I think it has its place. I don't think it has to be excessive. I think you talk about it where necessary. If it's what you lead with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like if that's something that you want to focus on and talk about, then it could be incorporated where it fits into your business.
And what does that look like?
I'm still trying to figure it out. That has been my biggest question mark. And the only reason why is because the background that I come from, which is heavy in sales, you would find that people manipulate God and they manipulate, like spiritual activity to manipulate people to convert sales. And so one of the things that me and my husband saw this early on in the network marketing industry, where people would be saying stuff and doing stuff in the name of God and all the stuff that they
Yeah.
would say. And then they would turn around and you would see the true character and realize that it was just for the sale, right? So to me, it has to be something that is totally a part of who you are. And I think too, I mean, I believe that I talked to one of my good friends the other day about that, about what does this look like? And he said, Nick, if that's who you is, it's going to come out anyway. Like you want to
Right.
skate, so you don't necessarily have to plaster it everywhere, but if it is a part of who you are, it will naturally come out. And so it's okay to take ownership over that being right, without compromise and without feeling like you have to be, you have to reduce that part of yourself, but
Right.
it just should naturally be a part. And I think too, what we have to understand is it's the integrity for how you do business. Who you are in behind closed doors and how you conduct business is what will make the difference. It don't matter what you say. What matters is what you do. How are you showing up? Who are you when nobody's watching? Because I think
Right.
one of the biggest challenges we have is folks who do say that they somebody in the name of God and they in the name of Jesus and all this stuff. And then them folks be some like, ooh, Jesus. They make you want to run away,
Yes.
anything
Yes.
in that industry. So I think it really boils down to the character of who you are, how you do business.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like what is your true representation outside of you talking about it? I think all of that plays a role in what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know I saw the other day you had a bit of a controversy with someone copying your business and also use that in the name of Jesus kind of thing. What do you say to people who entrepreneurs and people who are getting started who aren't operating in their purpose or starting businesses that they're passionate about, instead they want to steal from someone else? What do you say to people about that?
You're only going to get so far. I think when you are trying to figure out your journey and when you are, I remember when I first got started, when I first got introduced to internet marketing, my whole thing was starting off in the speaking industry. And so I would go and look at everybody who I could find that was like an example in the speaking industry. And in my head, it was to emulate them, right? I think when you are trying to figure it out, you begin to try to emulate what you see. And then over time, you begin to realize, okay, this may be a good example, but it's not for me to totally take. The situation that I dealt with, that's the first time in 15 years that I dealt with somebody who did what they did. I mean,
oh wow,
come in my Facebook group, promote your business to my people in my Facebook group. I go check the link, and everything on your page is my content.
wow.
Community pushing, you know, that is very bold face and blatantly like psychotic. Like, I'm like, something's wrong for you to think it's okay to be inboxing all my people, pushing this link and the same link that these folks are getting from me already. You know what I mean? So that's kind of a not so common practice, a common practice of people stealing stuff. I think people have this idea that I just can take what other people have and it's going to make me a lot of money. And they don't realize that, number one, karma does work. You might make a few sales, you might get a little ahead a little bit, but eventually it's going to catch up with you, because if you're doing business with people and they end up paying you for a thing that you can't deliver on, you will be exposed. Right. So you can only be a fraud for so long before your fraud ways will be exposed. And so I would just say, for new entrepreneurs that are just getting started, it's okay to see examples, but really take some time and pray about what it looks like for you, because your authentic voice is what's going to make the difference in your business.
Right. Absolutely. So Nicole, you know, when we spoke a little earlier about, you know, when you're operating in a space of doing what you're called to do. And so for me, since I was a child, I loved fashion. Like, you know, I would make clothes for my dolls. You know, my dad purchased me my first sewing machine when I was 5. When I was in middle school, I took home economics, learning how to sew and things like that. When in high school, did the same thing. But, you know, as you said, you know, at my senior year and after, you know, it was all about, oh, you need to go get a government job, you know, and work the government job. And then life happened, and, you know, and then I got away from that. And over the years, like I said, over the last decade, I've done some type of business within that industry. And so my question is, I just didn't feel it worked out for me. And I know a lot of people stay in businesses that they aren't passionate about or that they aren't called to do. And so my question is, when should you walk away from a business that isn't feeding your spirit or that you,
That is such a good question. So, so here's the reality of it, because you mentioned that we're talking, and as we're talking, I'm like, this is something that most people don't connect with the passions. I think you can be passionate about a thing that you don't know how to run a business for. So you can be passionate about cooking, but you don't know how to run a restaurant where you're actually charging people for your food. You can be passionate about doing hair, but you don't know how to effectively build a business as a cosmetologist. What most people fail to do when they launch businesses is invest in the help. So to me, anything you do requires business, in the area of business requires business education. Because I'm a business coach, and I've kind of been in this space for quite some time, I've got a chance to work with tons of different people that are talented in tons of different areas, but they just don't know how the money works. Right. My mom ran a catering business, and I was when I was in college, and I would go home and she would have all these people in Hollywood, you know, be on the sets, putting all this food. Because my mom, we're Caribbean, right? We're Belizean. They want her good, you know, whatever she made that was good, her rice and beans and her plants and all this stuff. And my mom would go and buy the best of products and get all these things, spend all this time buying all this stuff, make all this food, and she would charge them less than what she paid for the ingredients.
Oh, wow.
Her head, if she was charging them $200 a pan, she was getting $200. It was like, Mom, you're not counting up what you just spent. You're not counting your gas. You're not counting time that you're on your feet.
Right.
Remember her saying, Nikki, I just love to cook, right?
Mm.
And so it was a realization that you might be really good at a thing, but doesn't mean you should be building a business around it. You might
Mm.
step in somebody else's organization, or you might have a partnership where somebody runs. Because I said, Mom, if we ever had a restaurant, I gotta manage the money. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not looking at profit.
Right.
Like people in business today. Oh, I made $4,000 this month. Yes, but how much did you spend
Mm-hmm.
to make the 4,000, right? So you'll find that just because you're good at a thing doesn't mean you're successfully going to run a business at a thing. So
Mm.
what has to happen is one of two things. One option is to treat your business like your college education. And you can go ahead and invest money in the right help in the coaches and get the necessary guidance on how to successfully build a business. And you have tons of free organizations. You have SBAs that are there that will sit down with you and help you to put down your financial projections, teach you about profit and loss. The problem with most people is when they're passionate about a thing, that's all they want to do. And most
Right.
people want to engage in the boring stuff because the business side can be very mundane. It's not, although the internet make it sound real sexy.
Exactly.
But it's not. So knowing when to tap out is, am I willing to go hire help and get the right guidance on how to effectively build this as a business? Or do I need to just get a job and do this as a hobby? So you have to choose, is this a hobby for me or is this a real business model that I want to build and pursue?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, that I like how you touched on that. Just because you're passionate about something doesn't mean it should be a business. And I think in this social media world that a lot of people don't have that discern. You know, they think, oh girl, you good at that, or God, oh man, you good at that, you need to start a business. But they aren't business minded, and they aren't willing to invest in learning how to become a business minded person. So you see a lot of people, they pretty much crash and burn. You know, one, they're starting businesses because they see the person next to them doing it, and it's like, oh wow, you know, I can do that, and they aren't called to do it, which is our topic. You know, it's not something that they're called to do, and so they end up wasting a lot of time and some money, because they're not investing a lot of money, and some money doing something that they aren't called to do. And so before we end the call, what else would you like to tell people about faith and entrepreneurship?
Well, I just want people to understand that faith is not enough. Right? We're talking about building businesses and being passionate and stuff. I think people have this concept or idea that everything's going to be fun and easy, and it's not. When you're pursuing what God has called you to do, there will be a lot more hard sometimes than easy. It'll be a lot more of it might be a lot more delays than it might be expedited outcomes, right? And so it's a reality check that just because you're called to do a thing, you're gifted to do a thing, you're passionate about that thing, and you're doing it doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. I think the deception about that word passion, I think people equate that to being, it should always be fun and it should always be easy. And that's why a lot of people fail. And I even think about that. From the aspect of building a business, right? So for years, I was deceived. I thought it was just talking and doing what you need to do on the front end.
Right.
And doing because I was really good at sales. So it was always about doing what's in the forefront that's fun. But neglect the other piece. Well, you keep neglecting and let Uncle Sam tell you, hey, you owe me $40,000.
Wow.
What? I owe you what? And then you realize there's an accounting piece to this. There's a money management side to this. You realize that it is hiring the right staff, like getting a CPA and, or a bookkeeper. You realize that you have to keep up with your expenses, that you have to have your business separate from your personal. So it's like this level of a process to get into your assignment is going to require you also investing in your knowledge. It's going to require for you to do the hard things. It's going to require for you to have great work ethic. I
Yes.
think one of my biggest concerns about this whole movement of faith in the Christian industry and people who want to talk about God is the lack of responsibility and accountability for how you're showing up every day, for how you show up in your area of discipline, in your area of commitment, in your area of follow through, in your area of integrity, in your area of work ethic. Like, I see a whole bunch of folks, God's gonna do this for you guys. No, he's not. Right?
Right.
God gives to you according to the measure of your faith, but he also says faith without works is dead, and to whom much is given, much is required. If you've been faithful over a few things, then you'll be ruler over many, right? He also talks about a man that don't work, don't eat. So if you're
Yes.
not putting in the effort to do what you need to do to become who you need to become, because another thing about what God requires of you is for you to step in and have dominion and dominate. So that means you
Yes.
show up differently than everybody else. You have to be able to have a level of investment in what you do, regardless of who sees it, regardless of who acknowledges it, and regardless of if you're being rewarded for it or not. You have to be so committed to your craft that no matter what it takes, you're all in on that thing. And I feel like people use God and faith as a cop-out. I feel like a lot of people who have no commitment to the process use all these blessings and manifestation declarations as a sideshow to avoid what they don't want to do. And I just want people to know it's enough. You know,
Yeah.
affirmations. I wrote a book, Praying Bold Prayers, and my book is all about those areas. Help me to be disciplined. Help me to have the right mindset. Allow me to see myself the way that you see me. Help me to understand what the vision is that you have for my life, right? I pray over all those areas of my life, because in your life, every area has to be governed, right?
Right.
So even as I am now as a business owner and as an entrepreneur and as a mom, I got to make sure that I'm putting as much effort into my relationship with my children, my husband, as I am into my business. And then when I'm running a business, it's how do I lead my team? I have a staff of over 10 people in my organization. What is my relationship like with my team? Am I telling them what to do? Am I mishandling them like I'm in control because I'm a boss because they work for me? Or do I understand that these are people with visions that God has appointed to me to help support me in this vision? And I honor and reverence and respect the contributions that they bring to my organization. All of that plays a role in what it is that you do. And so when people talk about this whole vague faith and, these very surface conversations, it's really more like, God, I need you to be my genie and do what I don't want to do. And that's roles.
Right.
So our whole mission is to show people the practical plan. You're praying for something. You got to understand that God does not do anything without the effort of your intent to act.
Yes.
So you can pray on a thing, but if you don't do what's necessary to act on that thing, if Noah did not build the ark, he would have drowned and been dead. When God saw the vision, do y'all understand that man did not have a Home Depot? He couldn't go nowhere and just start figuring out. He couldn't go on the internet on Google and figure out how to build an ark.
Right.
This man had to tear down trees and shape the wood and figure out how to join the wood together. And he had to make sure it was big enough to hold all the animals. And he had to do all these different things. If Noah would have never built the ark, he would have been dead.
Right.
So I think many of us are being told to build an ark that we're too lazy to put the tools together to build. And I just, when it comes down to faith, y'all better step y'all game up and get to work, because God will pass you over.
Right.
Give that talent. It's the story of the many talents. I think it's in Matthew 24. Most people are burying their gifts and their talents, and they're disguising it under prayer, waiting on God. I'm waiting on the Lord. I'm on the Lord to do something in my life. And you're going to wait till you're dead. And when you get to heaven, like you ain't doing nothing I told you to do. So everything you had was here. I gave it to somebody else.
She's telling a word, y'all. Send some hearts. Send comment if you guys are feeling this, because and it's so true. Like, so many people, like, I'm gonna just leave it in God's hands. And to me, that's just a cop out for you wanting to put in the work to do what it is that you said that you want, but you just aren't willing to put in the work. And so, speaking of that too, in the industry that I'm in, and you also are doing branding too, that I realize people don't want to invest. They're like, oh, I want to do this and I want to be the greatest, so I want to make this amount of money, but they aren't investing the money that they should to get these things done. And so what do you say to people about that, Nicole?
I think that's a big issue. When I felt the Lord leading me to work with believers, I actually fought him on that for that very reason. I think believers have a very genie mentality. I don't want to say all, but I know in our community, growing up in different churches and seeing how people used Jesus as a genie and like I pay for him to, I'm going to God to pay my bills and I'm going to God for all these things. I feel like it's a very distorted way to teach the word. People don't really understand the word. They don't read the word. They don't study the word, right? And First Corinthians talk about the natural man can't understand the things of God because they're spiritually discerned. So you have a lot of people that talk about God, but they don't have a relationship with God. They don't operate according to the discernment of the Holy Spirit from God. They don't understand how to be able to take the word of God and actually apply it to their lives. So everything they say and do is ritualistic, which is why there's no fruit in their life. The Bible talks about you be able to discern by the fruit and that you can test the spirit. It's by the spirit. So the reason why we have this huge population of people who talk about God, but their life is not a reflection of it, is because they are not rooted in the word and they have not implemented and acted on the things and the promises of God. When you have people who don't want to invest in themselves, I mean, it really boils down to a person's willingness to walk in that assignment, right? And you are clear on what God has called you to do. It is a by any means necessary.
Yes. Yes.
So you move from a place of, I got to make this work. Where can I find the money? What do I got to do? Right. Because I'll go back on my story. When I first got started in internet marketing in 2007, I was broke, bankrupt, homeless, foreclosed, repossession, and on welfare and pregnant, living in a spare friend's home. I was a real estate agent and a real estate investor. We had just lost everything. I knew that I needed to find a new skill. I didn't know what the skill would be. All I had was a laptop and Wi-Fi. And I went online looking for jobs and pop-ups started popping up about how to make money from home. And I was like, ooh, what's that? If I can make it from home, I need to figure out what it is. As I began to investigate, guess what? Every single pop-up was associated with a purchase. I ain't had no money. I was on welfare. Right. I was pregnant. But guess what? I knew I had reached out to a mentor. She was like, you're going to find somebody to sponsor you. And I was like, okay, cool. She was like, think about who you know that got some money that you can go to, tell them what you want to do, and that they trust you and they'll give you a loan. And I was like, oh, I got some people. And I called my dad. Dad, I found a way to get myself out of this position I'm in. It's this thing called internet marketing. Would you sponsor me? If you sponsor me, I'll put the checks in your name. I just need you to pay for me to get the information so I can learn this new skill. And that's exactly what happened. My dad gave me his credit card, said, do what you gotta do. I think it had like a $5,000 limit. I was buying ebooks and webinars, and I was studying and putting my head into anything I can get my head and my attention in. And I didn't even know what I was doing at the time. But I had such an ingrained, I've known my relationship with God started at 17. And at 19, God gave me a vision for where my life was going. And it was just basically a stage, a microphone, and a spotlight. That's all I saw while sitting in class one day while I was in college. And it made me pursue, what is this microphone? Is it am I supposed to be an actress on TV? Am I supposed to be running my own radio show? What am I going to do? But that little spark of a vision made me begin through the path. It was like, I got to figure out what this is and where I'm supposed to go. And that's why the Bible says without a vision, people perish. If you don't have a vision for your life, it won't drive you. When you got a vision for your life, it will always drive you. And it means so much.
Hold on, guys. We lost her again. She was swiping up. Stay here. Stay here. This word is good. Stay here, guys. So she's going to hop back on. Thank you all so much. Are you guys enjoying this live so far? Again, this is a weekly live that I, Tona Michelle, the creative director and founder of October Moon Branding, hosts every Thursday. It's usually at 12 noon. But today I wanted to have Nicole on to speak to you guys on faith and entrepreneurship. So we started it a little late today. So be sure to follow her if you aren't already at Nicole S. Cooper, and also follow October Moon Branding here on IG Live. Okay, hold on, guys. She's back. you can't be doing this. You giving people the word and they feeling
My
it.
alarm, so my alarm keeps coming on because I had calls, different things scheduled, and it keeps going on. When it goes off, it'll block my audio. So I gotta hurry up and swipe it up so that it doesn't block my audio, because then it'll make me not be able to speak. Just that's what happened when everything is in your one device and you trying to all these like alarms kept going. So I'm like trying to swipe it and get rid of it. But anyway, yeah, I mean, so I go back, I forgot what I was saying. What was the last thing that I said?
So, Jesus, what was she saying? So you were talking about, how you were trying to figure out and operating and finding out what this mic was about. You were blessed with this vision. Yeah.
So vision. When you don't have a vision, you don't have anything no momentum to drive you. So what happens is when you don't have a vision, you got to look and see what other people are doing to get a roadmap. When you have a vision, your vision, when you start getting connected to where that vision is leading you, it becomes like your mental pictures that it's like through your imagination is showing you where your path is and where you need to go. So when I began to get visions of what I was called to do, I knew I was called to speak and teach and train. I had all these visions. It was like, I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna spend my lifetime trying to figure it out. And so bottom line is I borrowed my dad's credit card and I bought all kind of programs from people. I was buying $1,000 programs. I ain't had no money. But what I also did was, as I was learning, I started offering myself for services. I was like, I'm learning this stuff. I don't really have right now. If you need me, I'll do whatever you need me to do. And I began working for people with the skills that I was learning to build up the income. And it just opened up the door. And I think what people don't understand is that God will give to you according to your measure of faith. When you have faith and belief about what God has called you to do, he said the things that are impossible with man are possible with God. God will do supernatural miracles in your life. He'll begin to shift things and open doors and create experiences and put you in front of the path of the right people, to the point where you don't have to force things to work. Things will work in your favor if you're committed to making them work.
And so that's the word, committed.
Yeah, it's like when people don't want to invest in themselves, I tell you what, it's like, I think about the just all the different industries that I've been in. And can I just tell you, it's real easy to be successful. And the reason why is because most people are not willing to do what the one person who, one or few people who have a willingness to do. It reminds me of being in college and hearing about scholarships. I remember a speaker came and he was like, there's all this money out here for scholarships that people don't apply for. And the reason why, because Essence or Ebony used to produce this whole edition of scholarships. And they would have all these scholarships with what was required. And what would happen is people would go and eliminate themselves from because of the requirements. And so they would talk themselves out of applying. And so they would say, so few people would end up applying that they would automatically get this money. And half the time they didn't even have the qualifications. It was having the boldness to show up in spite of. And so I always think of those scenarios. And I'm like, number one, I'm in business. I don't want to work with nobody. I got to convince you to invest in yourself.
Right.
Money. That's right. But number two is knowing who I am and the value that I've put into myself. And that's keep reminding myself, right? It's like, girl, do you know how much you've invested in yourself? Do you know how much time and energy and effort you spent? And begin to raise my head and my language to the person who gets it, right? Who gets it. Because at the end of the day, we're going to have a world full of people who never were able to maximize their potential. Only a very small, exclusive amount. And it is nobody's real fault but your own, based on the decisions and choices that you choose to make. So if you choose not to invest in yourself, then you will suffer in your stagnation for your inability to commit to your journey.
Yes. And that is so important. And, that was one of the reasons why I started this agency, because, when I had my online clothing boutique, or when going back even further, when I started my color cosmetics and skincare, I knew early on, because I did the research. I looked at the greats like the Macs and, the Bobby Browns and those giants. And I'm like, okay, I want to be that. And so I'm going to do whatever it is I need to do to brand myself and market myself to look like that or to be like that. And so everything I would do, I will max out a credit card or whatever so that I can have the correct, business etiquette, the training, and create a brand that people would recognize and respect and, and trust and want to purchase from or want to support. And I mean, I started this because I would do pop-ups or just strolling through social media, and I'll see small businesses in the fashion, beauty, and luxe industry, and they have good product, and some of them make it themselves, or so they have good business, businesses and products, but they aren't willing to invest in themselves, in their business, to get proper branding and marketing in order to get to where they want to be. And it's just so unfortunate. And, so I just wanted to fill in the gap for that industry because I see it so much and so prominently in that industry, and wanted to fill in the gap to offer those services that they can afford, because that's one of the things, most of these branding or marketing agencies, they're extremely expensive. And so being able to give them that same level of services, but at an affordable rate, is why I started this, because, I really want to see our people to grow, you know what I mean? And be able to operate in that thing that they want to do. Not that they say they want to do, but that they really want to do.
I mean, this is a part of business coaching, though, right? Because I had to understand the difference between those who need it and those who want it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
When you're building your business, you're going to find gaps. You're going to see an area and you be like, man, there's a whole demographic of people over here that really need this. And I'm going to lower my prices and I'm going to put this stuff together so that I can make it possible for them. And then you work with them and they don't want to spend the money on it. So even in lowering the prices to fill the gap, you realize, like, I did all of this for them to tell me that they don't want it. What we have to do, instead of trying to service an audience who needs something but don't want it, we have to find the people that want it and are ready to pay. And you have to modify your business for that. I think we all make that mistake, especially in our community. I think culturally we're nurturers and we help everybody. And so we start off with this empathy-based business. Oh, I see that they don't have this. I want to provide it for them. You realize you're really good at a thing, so you go ahead and you sacrifice your journey to make things easier for them, and you begin to support them, only to realize, like, they don't care. They're not committed. They're not going to compromise, or not compromise, but they're not going to sacrifice their money for that benefit, but they want you to sacrifice your time. So what I had to do, especially now when I'm coaching clients, is to ask, who's ready to pay? Who got the money? Number one, because we got to start trying to create businesses for people who ain't got the money or willing to come up with the money. Like, I don't know why we do this, but we start building businesses for broke people. We be like, oh, I just launched my company, but the people who I'm talking to, they don't have no money. Well, why you build your business for broke people? Not to be insulting. I was financially strapped for cash when I started my business, but my mentality was, this ain't my life. I'm not born to be broke. Like, temporary circumstance. Broke is a mindset. Broke, I can't afford it. I won't be able to do that right now. I can't. But guess what? Your kids got Jordans on. You have every single streaming TV in your house. You got a new car, dropping $800 a month on a car note for. There's not a happy hour that you don't miss that you probably drop $50 on. People will spend money, especially. It's one thing to be in a third world country. We're from one. I know what it looks like to be broke when you don't even have clothes for your kids and you're walking barefoot because you can't afford shoes. I know those circumstances. Man, we in America. It ain't no excuse. You can literally go outside. I live in my neighborhood. My husband, in my neighborhood, in our Facebook group, my daughter wanted to start a business. She started a dog walking business. She went and watched the dog for 5 days last week and got paid $175.
Oh, wow.
For 20, 30 minutes a day of her effort. Okay, that's consistent for her. She can get clients left and right and make $800 to $1,000 a month dog sitting. Like, you can't tell me, she's 14. You can't tell me there's not money to be made out here. Like, you can't tell me that you can't figure it out with the Instacart and I don't care if you got to do Amazon Flex and drive for Uber and drive for Lyft and do Instacart. You better do what you got to do to get where you need to go. And sometimes you got to shrink down your lifestyle, right?
Yes.
My lifestyle is very minimalized because I'm putting my money into my company. I'm launching a training a company where I'll be providing business coaching certifications for people who want to become business coaches. We have a certification program. We have a licensing company that we're launching. We're starting to launch our media company where we're going to be mass marketing media about coaching, consulting, and the service-based engineering. It's like, so I got staff I got to pay, right? I have a 5-figure a month investment into a team. That means that I don't go out here and get the better car or the this or the that. It is an investment into the development of the vision that God has given me. And it comes with a sacrifice of restraint, meaning that I don't have to wear who I am to feel validated for what I'm called to do. Instead, I simply got to act and be and do and give myself permission to go to accept those circumstances, right?
Yes.
That's what happens, especially in the Black community. We're so piss poor at our messages. Our messages is you got to look the part in order for people to respect you. And I get it. You got, there's certain pieces of it, but that doesn't mean you got to go out here and invest. Like now everybody burning their Balenciagas and cutting up Gucci and all this stuff as y'all figure out they pedophiles. I don't want to engage into that question. I mean, into that conversation, but it's like, why are we out here spending $1,000 for shoes anyway when we talking about we can't afford to invest in coaching or we can't afford to invest in resources and stuff like that? So it's like the level of priority is often backwards, and it's a choice. But I will tell you this: what we have to do, especially when you're walking in your gifting as a kingdom kid, is don't cast your pearls before swine, baby. If you don't value these pearls, you get access. So you gotta level up and elevate who we talking to and what we doing, because otherwise we're playing ourselves by thinking we're gonna change the mindset of people that are already convinced that what we have is not something they're willing to invest in.
And so actually that's something, because this is a new thing for me. So that's actually something that I've learned pretty quickly, which is why I quickly rebranding my venture to level up, you know, and that's one of the things, to level up. I'm like, no, I'm not going to be chasing this little here or that or trying to convince anyone. I'm showing you what we can do. If you're ready to pay, like you say, then let's work. But, you know, like you said, creating a business for broke people, no. So if that's what you guys are doing, it's time to level up and operate in your gifts and invest, because like Nicole said, and like the Bible says, faith without works is dead. So it's not just about you having the passion for something or, you know, having a belief about something. If you aren't willing to put into work to see that thing flourish, then you're just wasting your time or you're just fooling yourself. So Nicole, before I end the call, I just want to ask any of you guys out there, if you have any questions for either myself or Nicole, we're going to answer a couple of questions before we close out today. And also don't forget to follow her over at Nicole S. Cooper on Instagram, and us here at October Moon Branding. Any questions that you guys have, anything that you would like to know before we end this call? We have this powerhouse guru. She is the bomb.com. I mean, she knows everything. So I'm definitely going to be hitting you up for some, you know, coaching for this new venture here. So if you guys,
Any questions? Hey, everybody. Anybody have any questions out there? I'm scared to touch any buttons and scroll back, because every time I touch a button, this a true. This is a I don't know if they have any questions. So
okay. All right. Well, thank you all. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, be sure to follow both Nicole and October Moon Branding. And we'll see you guys back here tuning in from London. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Glamour Hair London, for joining us. And so come back here next Thursday. It's going to be a different time. Next Thursday is going to be at 11 a.m. with New Day's consignment. And the topic on that is going from 9 to 5 to full-time entrepreneur. I hope you can join us, Nicole. I might have to pop you in with us.
Thank you. Yes, this was awesome. I appreciate you having me. I apologize for all. I need to have a separate phone where I don't have all these doggone things.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much, and I look forward to working with you. And yeah, let's go. Let's go. And guys, again, don't, when you start in these business, don't just jump on something because you see somebody else doing it and they make it look easy. Try operating in your faith, your passion, and what you were called to do. And that way you won't be disappointed at the end and you won't feel like you've wasted your time. So first operate in your purpose and then go from there.
All right.
Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you for having me. You guys go ahead and follow us. And I look forward to seeing y'all soon. And I'm going to do a little after live after this. And talk.
All right now. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye, everybody.